Are you choosing your political party based on the standards of a mean girl? This is why I have a problem, honestly, with her speaking and spouting off ignorance. It's because you have a platform. If you were just some whatever woman just talking to your friends or something, it wouldn't matter. But if you're going to hop on a platform and proclaim to have these discussions, you need to have the knowledge to back it up. You cannot be spreading ignorance in a world that already has an abundance of it. You're just adding to the problem, and you're becoming a mess that needs to be cleaned up. And you know I'll clean it up. Hello everybody and welcome back. I am the Sovereign and this is my long-awaited return to the subject of Hater Nation. Shout out to the person that hopped into my Discord to let me know some things were going on with the haters. I always meant to come back because, like I said, these little people are kind of interesting, but not so interesting as for me to spend an extended amount of time on them. Like, honestly, it takes a long time, as you have seen, for members of the Hater Nation to actually develop, start doing something new, for the storyline to progress. And as I've checked in on Charlie, the one who started it all, at least for me, nothing's really changed. I mean, I think she switched over to doing live streams in an effort to get people to stop talking about her because she knows, honest to God, I don't have the patience to sit through a 3-hour live stream, even though when I did happen to click on certain things, it was BS no matter where I went. So I could have done it. But like I said, I just don't have the patience, the will, or the want, especially just to be hearing that monotone voice constantly. However, I have been checking in with Charlie. Nothing's changed. She has now actually gone back to making her 20-minute videos, and likely I will be talking about them. New subject though, it's Chantal, even though she's starting to backslide into Amber. Like, do you guys ever just seek development? Is anybody just seeking personal development whatsoever? Even when it comes to your YouTube channels, like, we're not progressing at all in our conversational skills and our subject matter, just nothing, right? Give us nothing? Okay. I'm so surprised some of these people still have fans. However, one person that has actually been attempting to expand, for better or worse, Miss Young Dumb Honey Bun, Sarah. This young woman is somebody that you guys have asked me to talk about for years. And initially I had planned to, but when she started to seemingly restructure and do better and find new content, and it seemed like she was pursuing personal development, I didn't want to, put her in my crosshairs. If someone's attempting to do better, I want to see where they go with that. That's an interesting progression of personal development that I wish to see. And if I'm going to ask for improvement, I can't be a hypocrite and not give people space to actually improve themselves. So I haven't really been paying attention to them. There's been so much going on over here. I've been talking about red pill guys. I've been talking about political nonsense. I did the political compass test. Links all up above and below and everywhere. I'll link all the different videos, the different subject matter that I have been interested in and making content on outside of the haters, because like I said, it's just, their pool is so shallow. But Sarah has gained a little bit of depth, like I said, for better or worse. Sarah has decided to dive in to the political sphere. And why would you do this to me, Sarah? Why would you do this to me though? Because you guys know, or most of you who have been around my channel know, that is my chosen field of study. Sarah typically still stays within the realm of psychology. I'm a political science / international relations major. That's my thing. That's what I geek out on. So when someone comes into my Discord and says, Sarah's popping off about politics, I'm like, wait, what? You're going to put two subject matters that I take interest in together? I want to see what this girl has to say. I saw a tiny bit of a clip of what was in this video, and I am scared. Not just for my sanity, but for Sarah herself. But at least you guys are here to help me through this, and we'll do this together. So this video that I was alerted to is entitled, I'm Leaving the Left. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Oh, Why I'm Leaving the Left. I was never aware of Sarah's political affiliations or even the fact that she was brave enough to speak on those matters. I completely and totally advocate for people being politically active in their societies, in their countries. Like, it's very important. So I can applaud her for taking on such an important subject. I'm just hoping that she does it responsibly. It's brave enough for a YouTuber to even tackle these things because people tend to be so polarized and so divided. And it's really difficult for people to stomach an intellectual conversation or debate from people that have differing views. So if she's able to carry the subject matter in a mature, educational, yet fun, entertainment type of way, props to her. I'm having a feeling that I wasn't alerted to this video because she excelled in the subject. I think y'all are starting drama with me right now, okay? And I fell for the bait. I'm very gullible like that. You know I cannot resist myself, so here I am.
Respect myself enough to understand that this is a big part of me growing up. I am approaching 25, and I think that these are the values and morals that I have thought about, I have debated on, I have really came to understand through therapy and through self-reflection, and these are the values that I want to take into my marriage and take into my family life, and I think that it is very important. And so I think that for the first time, I am okay with the impending consequences of that and the way I'm going to receive backlash, and I'm okay with that.
Pause. Okay, I like that. Sarah seems like she's taken the responsibility to really learn herself and find her own personal values and a party that coincides with her beliefs, which that is fine. As I said in my political compass test, being a part of any one side or any party or political system does not automatically make you a good or bad person. I do not believe in that, and I will not uphold that type of divisive thinking. You should be choosing a party that is reflective of what is the best sort of life that you want to live, is the best direction for your family, yourself, or where you see your country may most thrive. Sarah has seemingly deeply considered what she believes in and is ready to accept whatever people may think about her chosen lifestyle, which I think is great, especially from the position of a YouTuber. I never suggest people get on camera or be YouTubers. If you cannot take the ridicule, backlash, or whatever when it comes to your looks, when it comes to the way you think, the way you live, no matter how good you may believe yourself to be, there's somebody on the internet that's going to ridicule you about something. There's somebody on the internet that's got something bad to say about everything you do. So everybody who lives their life in any way in front of a camera, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, come to terms with the fact that not everybody's going to like you and be okay with that. That's called confidence. And I'll hand it to Sarah. She's got a lot of confidence to sit up here and talk about her beliefs and really seemingly choose a side. And if she's considered, her ideas, her beliefs, I'm assuming she's going to explain to us why she's made the decision that she's made. Even though I'm considered a part of the left, you can see my exact coordinates on the political spectrum in the political compass test. I am considered very left-leaning, very liberal, and I want people to live their lives however they want. I don't care. I don't care. That's my beliefs, is I don't care. I have the religion and belief of not caring. Honestly, if Sarah has been as thorough as she's proclaiming to be, we likely have some agreements. Even though we consider ourselves on different sides of the political spectrum, I likely would agree with her on a lot of things. So I'm very far into this video, and there's a lot of information that is not pertaining to exactly why Sarah left the left. And that's what we're all here for. And I'm sitting here. Do not blame me for getting this far into my video and we're still not discussing why she left the left. That's not how I structured this video. She structured it this way. And in, my reaction, I have to follow her structuring pattern. So that's why we're still sitting here this far into the video and still not understanding. She really should have just jumped to the point instead of giving her entire familial background and all that. She should have just, I get it. Don't yell at me. It's not my fault. Okay.
And if you go back, if you know me, a lot of people that do know me, I am very embarrassed for. Because I was a man-hating feminist. And I am so embarrassed about it, but at the same time, I think it's time that I take ownership of it and say, you know what? Yeah, and I've grown from that, and I'm stepping into adulthood with new ideas. I was the first one to be like, men have oppressed women for so long, and that everything that's wrong with the world, and white cis het men are just like the spawn of Satan. It's so embarrassing. I look back now at a college argument that I had with someone talking about the pay gap, talking about the gender pay gap, and this dude was like, listen to yourself. And he was talking to me, he was citing evidence, and I was so determined to just not listen to any of it, to be like, no, I don't care, this is what happens, this is what it is, having no idea, no evidence, nothing to back it up with, but I was convinced.
Sarah, your lack of knowledge and evidence is your fault. Because damn well when I have an argument with anybody, I do have the evidence stored in my brain. Sometimes I even have HTML link codes. I can spell it out for you to pull up the statistics that I know and have in my head when it comes to stuff like that. So if you didn't know the statistics and you were just spouting off at the mouth, that's your own level of ignorance, and you need to come to terms with that. But don't automatically assume simply because you didn't possess the knowledge that the knowledge therefore was wrong. Not at all. Also, this is why the so-called feminists have such a bad rap right now. It's because there are truly women out there that are super man-hating and spouting off at the mouth about everything. And they're so mean and just vicious. And I'm like, this is why people think that I'm like you. I love men, okay? I proclaim my love for men. I love the D. I'm not going to say that whatsoever. There are some trash men, and I will address them wholeheartedly, consistently, and persistently, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Check my TikTok, because I've been pissing them off. But though I address the bad men, aka the passport bros, the red pillars, those guys, every time I address those guys, I always make sure to acknowledge the existence of good men because I do not want them to be discouraged or overlooked. I want to acknowledge the fact that they are present within my court and that they are cared for and loved and not being overshadowed or shouted over by these bad men to the point where women don't notice them. I know that they're there, so I would never, ever be this man-hating, men suck type of woman. I target specific groups of men, absolutely, but I leave the good men out of that, and I'll happily make you some delicious dinner, sir. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. You want a hug? You want some cuddles? You want a back massage? Some back scratches? What do you need, sir? Like, I do not disrespect good men. There is a very clear difference in my behavior when it comes to a respectable man versus the red pillars I couldn't give two damns about because you are unworthy. So being a feminist, I go by the dictionary definition of that, meaning simply equal rights. That's all I believe in. I want equal rights for women. I want to be able to play football in the dirt, in the mud, in the sun, drive pickup trucks, dirt bikes, and ride my motorcycle to a little bit over the speed limit without being judged by men, without my finances being impacted. I want to be able to live an independent life as a woman to the same freedoms that men possess. That is legit all I want. My demands and need for equality and freedom truly have nothing to do with putting down men. I'm not trying to bring men down. I'm trying to boost women up. And quite honestly, I like to boost men up too. I encourage men to be better and stronger and, more masculine. Look, I'm getting to myself right now. Like the thought of men being men just sends shivers down my spine. I just don't have the capacity to be a man-hating woman, only for specific men. But like men in general, no. Sis, have you seen them? I couldn't stop loving them if I tried. So Sarah really needs to take accountability for her own behavior. Don't put it on the feminist club, sis. Put it on the Sarah club. That was a Sarah thing. That was a Sarah issue. Because I can both be a feminist and a man lover at the same time with no problem. Your multitasking sucks.
Are you oppressed right now? Well, it depends what you mean. Well, have you ever felt oppressed? Well, no. Have you ever been denied opportunities because you're a woman? No. Have you ever been denied opportunities because you are an immigrant and a woman? Well, no. I've actually become exactly who I want to be.
Riddle me this, audience. Sarah's over here saying, well, I've never been denied anything. How would you know if the opportunity was never presented to you? What did you think it was going to happen? They were going to show you the opportunity, put it in your hands, and then take it away, and that's how that works? That's not how oppression works, baby. And we're getting into a section where I'm feeling Sarah's perhaps seeming ignorance of the situation, and she may not be prepared to discuss these social topics in their entirety if she's not able to grasp these base level concepts. I think the common person is well aware that women are not provided the same opportunities as men are. That's just easily identifiable. For example, if I go to Lowe's or Harbor Freight or any hardware store and men are moving wood and moving big things and moving heavy objects, let's say a man needs help with something and he's walking down the aisles looking for someone to assist him. I know that I'm not going to be the person he stops to ask for help. I know that. When it comes to doing any supposed manly or masculine duties, I'm not the first option. Those opportunities to aid and assist and things like that are not presented to me first. They'll come to me if they have no other option. And even still, I know some men that would rather die. They would rather be crushed under the weight of their own ladders or a truck before ask for my help. If there's a guy on the side of the road who needs, help with a tire, they don't come to me and ask me for help. I've pulled over and stopped and helped men and showed them I know how to change a tire. I've got the tire jack. I've got the boots. I'll jack up their truck, pull the tire off, and have them on the road. But they'll never come to me to ask. The same concept applies to jobs. Unless this man knows that I have the skill, has seen that I have the skill, if I don't showcase myself, they will not present me with the opportunity to participate in certain masculine things, whether it be like welding or building or construction. Men always have this type of pause and hesitation to accept a woman in certain positions where a man is traditionally present. And a lot of those jobs like that are very high skill, high paying jobs. And even if a woman is qualified, that hesitation causes them to miss out on opportunities that they were not presented with, but could have gotten if they were men. Sarah should know better. There are many easily identifiable instances where it's very clear that women are passed over in favor of a man. I don't think a lot of the men even realize that they're doing it. And hell, even hiring women themselves, women in HR positions actually doing the hiring, don't realize they have that bias or prejudice against women when it comes to certain positions, because certain positions are just associated with men. Truck driving, construction work, any type of woodworking, like the thought that comes to mind is men. So it really does take forethought and persistent continued thinking to address those biases and remember that, hey, this woman submitted an application. I need to give her the same attention as I am these other 16, 20 men vying for this job because she's on equal footing with them. That is still something that most countries struggle with. It's just our internal bias. When we think lumberjack, you don't think a girl in a flannel shirt. You think a bearded like Canadian in a flannel, you know, swinging an axe. Like that's how you think of lumberjacks. And that's just our own internal bias. Yeah, Sarah needs to get some act right here, sis, because this is a very basic concept. And I don't see how you're going to dive into the political realm if you can't grasp this little bit. I'm a little bit shooketh.
Exactly who I want to be, and I have been granted so many more opportunities because I was a woman and because I am an immigrant.
Now, I will say vice versa. There are some jobs that are specifically identifiable to women, and women are the preferred choice for those jobs, but typically it's still lower skilled paying jobs. For example, like secretaries, nurses, kindergarten teachers, those are jobs we associate with women, and women typically will be preferred in those fields and men will be passed over for those. However, men are more looked favorably upon when it comes to the higher paying positions because when it comes to being a boss, a CEO, a leader, people think of men. So a woman may be looked at for the nursing position, but when it comes to doctors, surgeons, and department heads, men get those high positions. A woman may be the preferred choice for a kindergarten teacher, but it's men who are chosen to be the principals. The pay gap is a result of men being looked favorably upon for higher leadership roles and women kind of being a subdivision or in servitude to those higher echelon CEO leadership positions, right? We're always the secretaries, never the boss. And then of course you have the disparity between when the woman is the boss, then she's considered a bitch. Meanwhile, the man is considered a leader and assertive. It's a big, like deep dive of a well. And like I said, Sarah seems to be drowning in the kiddie pool.
We're not talking about globally. We're talking about right now in your everyday life. What is it that supports your logic of I hate all men, they are the evil of the society, I am oppressed because I am a woman and I have been denied all of these opportunities?
Bingo, I got you right. I got you, girl. I got you. I already said I'm a motorcyclist. Guys judge me as if I can't ride immediately because I'm a woman. They assume I'm not the group leader because I'm a woman. When I go to buy a new bike, they assume I'm getting a beginner bike because she's a pretty girl and it has to be her first bike, right? Don't give her the 600. We're going to give her a 300 and tell her to be safe. When I make a YouTube video or specifically a TikTok talking about in-depth social issues, the first insult that are usually flung to me are insults about my looks, my physical features, because that's something that men like to use specifically against women. You do not see that thrown at men immediately in their comment section. That's not the first thing that gets said about them in their comment section. But as soon as a woman comes on camera, we lose respect if we're not pretty enough. People don't want to listen to us as much if we're not attractive. Those are the types of things that I can say in my real life right now that people discriminate against me for, personally, as a woman. A lot of people, men and women, believe that your words, your thoughts, your ideas are worth less if you are not attractive. This is not something that men have to deal with. They can go and be overweight. They can be chunky and run for political office. Women are immediately ridiculed if we step into the public looking less than our absolute best.
Terrible about it. And I sat there thinking about these things, reading books and, watching videos and thinking about this and questioning what I've been saying all this time. And I thought, I can't defend this. You're right, me. I can't defend this. I can't say stuff like that because it's not true. Because if someone was to ask me about these things in a normal environment, in a sit-down debate, and say, can you prove these to me? I couldn't. And I felt ashamed. So I stopped saying it.
You should feel ashamed. Don't talk about something you know nothing about. That's what gets yourself in trouble. Literally, like everybody out there, if you truly are not educated on a subject, walk away, stay out of it. That's what I do. I will proclaim my ignorance on any subject I am ignorant on. I do not get myself in trouble like that unless I have some background or some knowledge or some research to sustain what I'm saying. Sarah needs to take a little bit of responsibility for being a man-hater, which she shouldn't have been, or not knowing any of the situational things happening with women in her country or the world in general. Like, if you are ignorant on these things, you shouldn't be, sis. You should be smarter than that. But you should have done the research. And until you have that knowledge and possess a way of speaking and identifying and logically processing these thoughts, you should have kept your mouth shut on the whole women's issue. And just because you don't have the knowledge does not mean it's not there. She's saying, the way that she's speaking in this video is like, oh my God, I shouldn't have been saying these things because I really didn't have anything in my head to justify it. So I was wrong. And it's like, no, just because you couldn't justify it doesn't mean you were wrong. It means you were ignorant. Go read a book.
In it, because it's not true. I don't hate men. I don't feel oppressed. And that's not to say I've never been a victim of crimes committed, especially by men.
Being oppressed and feeling oppressed are two different things. I do not feel oppressed. I am a Black woman. I am among the most oppressed people in my country. But do I feel it right now? No, I feel great. I feel a little bit sleepy. You know I need to cook, and I know my brother's a little bit upset with me. He's next door. We're going through some things, okay? But he's going to do his homework regardless of what he says. But that's how I'm feeling right now. That's not something I feel on a daily basis, is the weight of oppression. But that does not mean that I do not suffer from the situational disparities that women and Black people face. I know that there are certain things that are not available to me because of the way that I was born. This is giving me real cringe, and I'm worrying a lot because Sarah does not seem to be able to separate her fifi feelings from factual logic. And this is not the way to begin your journey into social topics and the political sphere.
Crimes committed, especially by men, are, and I think a lot of you, especially women, will know exactly, unfortunately, what I'm talking about. That's not to say that, because I have. And as unfortunate as it is, that doesn't mean that all men are terrible. That means that that one man was terrible.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But she just stated a level of oppression that women face. But then right before that, she says that women don't face oppression, or she's not oppressed. And I'm like, but you just said that women face oppression in the way of violence committed by men. Not all men, obviously, but it's a danger that women specifically face. That is a part of our oppression. That's a level of oppression right there that just came out of your mouth. Sarah, what are you doing? And of course, she's going to be like, well, not all men. It's not all of anything. It's not all people, period. It's not all Black people, white people, men, LGBT. You can't generalize an entire segment, but you cannot say that that's not a valid form of oppression that women face, just like it's a valid form of oppression that the LGBTQ community faces. They face a heightened level of violence and danger to their community because of who they are. That's part of their oppression. And you just acknowledged it in this video. Oh, okay. I see what's happening. I see what's happening. I need to prepare myself. We got this. Oh, here we go.
I was so embarrassed because it's like, how can you say stuff like that when you can't actually defend it? And so I've stopped saying that because I can't subscribe to this kind of idea. As I've said before, I don't feel like I have been denied all of these things. And again, I'm not talking about globally, because I do recognize that there's these global, cases and global instances that we need to speak about and we need to talk about. But again, I think that everyone is now in this binary, as ironic as that is. Everyone is now saying, well, if you don't believe that you are actively being oppressed, then you are denying that oppression exists. No, that's not true. I can say I am not oppressed and I don't feel it. I don't feel that me just being a woman and existing as a woman is a threat to my existence. However, I can recognize that that can be different to other people.
Okay, I understand what she's saying. She's saying, I personally don't feel oppressed, but I recognize in other areas of the world, in different societies, women are oppressed. However, Sarah, you are a woman. I know you think of yourself as, I'm just Sarah, and Sarah's not oppressed. Sarah, you are a part of a group called women, and women are oppressed. And I don't believe there's any place in the world where they go unoppressed. Even the better European nations, Switzerland, Finland, Denmark, who have very rich societies, very safe societies, I hate bringing up the immigration, thing that's happened, especially in Sweden. But when immigration, the open door policy was happening in Sweden, women were facing a surge in sexual assault because of the whole immigration thing and the different cultures that were happening. And it became an issue. Just because those Swedish women are from an upper echelon European society does not mean that oppression is erased from them. And Sarah lives in the UK. The UK still has very strict ideas of what a proper woman is. The UK regularly, like the British tabloids, UK media, run things about the royal family all the time that criticize women based on what they wear. Oh my God, Kate Middleton she bared her shoulders. Meghan Markle's knees were not covered with tights. Like, it's very obvious. I can go print off magazines and news articles that simply come at women because of the way that they're dressed. Michelle Obama was bashed based on the type of gown that she chose. These are not things that men face. This is not the type of bullshit that men have to deal with. No matter how you slice it, women as a whole, as a general thing, are oppressed. I can run any type of test you want, but there's many different situations and circumstances in the UK, United States, Western countries as a whole, that the average woman will be kept from certain opportunities simply because she has boobs. Like, this is very common. Why do you not know this? You're not ready for this conversation. I'm starting to feel the weight of her lack of just intelligence in the situation, and I'm not looking forward to it. She had me happy, and now here we go.
And I am more than willing to have these conversations. I think they are so important to have. I think they aid society and us evolving. But you're not allowed to have those. Because as soon as you say, well, I don't feel... someone was going to jump in and say, well, I had breakfast this morning, so world hunger doesn't exist. And they shut you down.
Sarah, you just did that. Oh, see, here she goes. She got me squealing. Sarah, you just did that. You said, I don't feel oppressed. Therefore, oppression doesn't exist. Maybe it exists for like women overseas or somewhere else in the world, but it doesn't exist for me. So therefore, if you're not oppressed, it doesn't exist in the world. Like, Sarah, you just did that. No, it's not all about you. When you're having these generalized topics, it involves people outside of you. If Sarah never left her house, ever, she became an incel and never saw the light of day again, she would never feel or likely even experience oppression because she has no societal interaction with anybody, period. That does not mean it doesn't exist. It no longer persists in the world because she never experiences it anymore because she doesn't go outside. That's not how that works, babe. And if you're going to run a YouTube channel discussing generalized topics, you have to look beyond yourself. Yes, you may not feel it. Number one, that doesn't mean you don't experience it. You're just dense. Number two, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist in your country, society, or even neighborhood. You got to think larger than that. You're getting into the realm where you speaking is irresponsible at this point.
You can say one thing while also recognizing another. They can be true at the same time. No, I don't.
Yes. Two things can be true at the same time. You cannot feel oppressed, but at the same time, still sustain oppression. You may not feel oppressed, but you may live in a society that still oppresses women, a group in which you reside. You see how that works? It's like she has the different ideas, but she's not making the connection.
Feel like right now I am being denied opportunities simply because I exist as a woman. I also don't subscribe to this idea of saying that to other women. I don't think that we should sit there and say things like, just because you are a woman, then you are going to be capped because of the glass ceiling. You're never going to get to the top. All men are going to hate you and use you.
Why do you speak in these absolute terms? Nothing is absolute, ever. Never say never. Never say everyone. Just because a woman is a woman does not mean she cannot reach certain heights. It means it's going to be harder for her to get there. There may be extra steps, but that does not mean that it is an impossibility. Her success is never an impossibility. Oppression means that there are added barriers in her pursuit of whatever she's trying to attain. That's all that means. It's the same thing with Black people. Being Black does not mean you are never going to achieve a certain goal. It means, depending on what that goal is, it just might be more difficult. Oppression means it just makes your life a little bit harder than the people around you. That's all that means.
All men are going to hate you and use you. I think that is such terrible, terrible advice.
All men are going to hate you and use you. That's an absolute. You can't say that. There's a large majority of men, depending on where you are in the world, that will try to use you. But like I said, that does not negate the good men that are out there. I have a little boy next door who is mad at me right now because I'm forcing him to be better in school and I'm forcing him to do his homework. And I want him to be one of those better men. I would never generalize all men and say you're all demonic monsters as soon as you're born. We don't speak in absolutes like that, but that does not mean I do not have the cognitive awareness that there are groups of men who are bad. It's the same thing of, me looking out for my little brother. He's a little boy and adults do pose a threat to him. I keep an eye out and a lookout to protect him from adults that would do him harm. But that does not mean I demonize his teacher and think that she's automatically a bad person because she's an adult and adults pose a threat to my brother. That just means I know that there are groups of people and singular people out there that would do him harm. So I do my best to keep an eye out for those people, but adults in general cannot be said to be bad, mean, or evil. I'm an adult. His teacher's an adult. His doctor's an adult. His parents are adults. Like, those absolute generalized statements have no place in civilized discussions.
It's such terrible, terrible advice, and I could never imagine looking at my daughter telling her men are your enemy, whites. I could never imagine giving her a phone where someone on the internet is going to tell her that. And they are going to tell her that. I can never...
You're going to be a terrible mother. You're going to be an absolutely terrible mother if you don't have certain conversations with your child. You don't tell your little girl that all men are devils. You don't tell your little girl all men are evil. But you do need to educate that girl and say that there are some boys out there who will attempt to take advantage of you. And you need to prepare her for the world that she's going to be in order for her to be safe. Disregarding that, like, why is it this is driving me nuts. Why is it all or nothing with you? Why is it either everybody's good or everybody's evil? Why can you not see the nuance within the conversation? Some people are bad, and it's not wrong to discuss that. It does not make everybody else bad along with those people, but warning your child about the exposure to predatory men does not demonize all men. It just makes you a good parent and thoroughly preparing your child for the dangers that she will face because she's a girl. And that's factual. I don't know a single woman who hasn't had some sort of inappropriate advance made on her by a man. But at the same time, knowing that there are bad men out there, that does not then demonize my little brother and automatically assume that he's going to be like that or that he is a predatory little boy himself. I can separate the two, and understanding that just because there are bad men does not make my little brother bad. This is basic kindergarten level cognition, Sarah.
Imagine saying to my daughter, because you are a woman who is white, you are in some way guilty of something that has happened hundreds of years ago on a different continent.
Oh, you've lost your freaking mind. Now we're jumping into the white argument, which, I mean, white people who have some sense, thank you for having some sense, because existing as a Black woman in a world with this level of ignorance is very difficult. Like, I would seriously have mental problems if white people were still operating on the level of like 2003 when they thought racism was eradicated. So those of you who are aware and willing to discuss the issue and understand it, seriously, you provide me my sanity. Thank you. Sarah, the only thing that minorities as a whole have asked white people is just to acknowledge our hardship and do your best to alleviate and move the barriers that have been placed upon us. That is it. That is all. No one, like, legit, no one's trying to go lynch white people. No one is out there stringing up white people. Like, we're not doing that. And we're not trying to make anybody feel guilty the way that we felt afraid our whole lives. We're just asking for recognition. That is all. Legit, that is all. Please recognize the fact that I am a Black woman. Accept me for who I am and the differences that I come with. And please do not discriminate against me because I may be different from you. That is legit all we've ever asked for. I don't understand why it's so difficult for other people to grasp unless you just don't want to. Like, if you just don't want to acknowledge the hardship we've gone through. It's just been hard. My mom is the first person in my family to be born with full civil rights. Because y'all love to bring up slavery. Slavery was so long ago. No. My mom, the one you guys have seen on camera, is the first person in my family to be born with full civil rights. Freedom, voting, all that. She's the first one. She's in her 40s. So let's acknowledge the fact that Black people are starting very late in the game and do our best to remove the barriers that have been placed before us in the past. Redlining and not allowing us to possess certain jobs, discrimination against our hair. Like, please, please, that's all we ask. And I just can't believe I'm still explaining this in the year 2023 of our Lord. But Somebody please just go explain this to Sarah, because now it's starting to feel like a burden. I'm being burdened with the ignorance of this white woman. Sarah, I'm going to try to help you, but if you're going to sit here and be this ignorant, like, I'm not sure I have the patience to keep explaining to people what the problem is. No one's demonizing white people. We're just saying, hey, we've had some hardships. We would appreciate you guys taking the weight off our back and being a little bit more understanding. That's it. That's all. Thank you.
How can you then go on and say that you want to fix things by telling people that they are victims? I have recently read a study that talked about victimhood and the way we seek victimhood. Essentially, it was women who were putting scars on the face to go to a job interview, and just before they left, the person who was organizing the study said, let me just touch it up real quick, and they actually removed the scar, but the person didn't know, so they thought they were going into a job interview with a huge scar on the face, but there was nothing there. And they said, hey, let me know at the end of this interview if you feel like you were being discriminated against, if you feel like the interviewer was talking about the scar on your face, if you feel like they were actually making suggestions or comments, you know, inversely on your appearance. Do you feel like you were discriminated against with this pretend scar that wasn't actually there? And they came back and said, yes, I was discriminated against, which to me tells me that if you tell people that they are a victim, they will be discriminated against, they will look for that victimhood. They will look for that discrimination.
No, sis, they're not looking for victimhood. You made them feel insecure. That's called insecurity. And I've seen the same thing done with like pimples. They put pimples on an attractive guy and sent him on dates with women, and he suddenly started behaving differently. It's because he knew he did not possess the same level of attractiveness. It impacted his confidence, and he didn't do as well on those dates as he otherwise would have because he felt insecure. And if you do that to someone who's not used to feeling that, they don't know how to identify that feeling. They're sitting in an office with something on their face seemingly, and obviously their insecurity is telling them, everybody's looking at my face, everybody's seeing this, everybody's looking at me, this sucks, this is awful. They don't know any better, they've never experienced it. So in their mind, they're like, yes, everybody was looking at my face, because in their mind, they truly believe that, but that's their own insecurity playing a trick on them. And I don't understand how someone with a psychology background doesn't understand that. And don't come for me in the comments, because I'll pull up my college records. Part of the lineup of classes that I took in pursuit of getting my degrees mandated that I take psychology. So I'm well aware, and I actually really like psychology classes. It's phenomenal. But this is directly linked to a person's internal psychology and giving them their insecurities and how they're feeling. Sarah should understand this. So now I'm like losing faith and a little bit of intellect and education that she's supposed to possess. Like, you should know better. And I have said this before when it comes to like Second Amendment rights and gun control in the United States. The United States is a very traumatized nation. We collectively have PTSD because of the amount of wars and our Revolutionary War, Civil War. We are still traumatized by just warfare and civil dysfunction, especially being how we were birthed unto the world with our giant revolution and fighting the British. Americans are never going to give up their guns. It's an integral part of just how our society was built. So I know that based on just the psychology of the United States, that's something that's never going to happen. Black people have an internalized suspicion of outsiders because of how they've been treated for so long. They expect to be judged. They expect to be discriminated against. They look out for that. It's the same reason that my community has a fear of police. Not all police are awful, but we err on the side of caution in order to protect ourselves and our children, because we know that likely our suspicions and paranoias at some point are going to be correct. It's the same thing for women when we are walking down late night alleys, streets, or bars by themselves. Women possess a suspicion that something bad could happen. That makes them kind of look at every passerby, every man that's near them under a certain hesitation because they are trying to preserve themselves. It's a form of self-preservation, and it's a form of safety. Everybody to certain extents have these internalized mechanisms to keep themselves out of harm. This is a psychological function that I expect Sarah to know.
Why would you tell that to someone? Why would you tell a child that they never amount to anything because of someone else?
We wouldn't.
And then send them into the world with this idea that everyone that looks a certain way is the enemy, is the oppressor, or at one point has been, so doesn't deserve respect, or they need to be wary about that person.
This is why it's better when minorities discuss this, because she's just blatantly megaphoning her ignorance, okay? The reason we teach our young children this is for the form of self-preservation, to keep them safe. I do not tell all children or my little brother that all cops are bad. However, I do let him know that if he ever encounters a cop, how to act, what to do, and to call me. He's not to answer any questions without an adult present, because I'm not going to automatically trust every adult or even police officer that comes around him. I want him safe. I'm not taking any chances when it comes to a child. The same thing with my family. I told my mom, if she gets pulled over ever, you call me immediately, say nothing, because I understand law in a way that she doesn't, and they will take advantage of her. I told her, expect to be taken advantage of. When it came to like my little brother participating in school functions, after school activities, being around different kids, I had to sit down and explain to him, certain kids do not understand your hair. They will not understand why your hair the way it is. Be prepared for that. It doesn't mean every child's going to question him, but I do prepare him for the absolute certainty that at least 1 to likely much more than that amount of children will have something to say, whether it be positive or negative about his hair. He understands and is prepared to answer those questions and how to deal with a circumstance that is not entirely friendly. I do that not only to keep him safe, but to keep him out of trouble, because if he's not prepared to go into that world and to deal with that mess, his reaction can also trigger other people into thinking he's a violent little boy. Because my brother's big, he's tall, he's black. He's automatically seen as older than his actual age and more of a threat. And I don't want people's negative perception to get him hurt. I'm not chancing a child's safety at all. And that's what a lot of minority communities are doing. We're not teaching kids to just demonize the world. We're teaching them to be careful and to be aware of their surroundings. The same way we teach little girls. You see how this works, Sarah? All of the discriminated against, endangered groups of people, women, minorities, even children, require special caution. So they take precautions in an effort of self-preservation.
And I think I finally got to a point where this internal feeling of, oh my God, people around me must think that I'm crazy. I must be crazy. Like, I am thinking different to everyone around me.
I don't think you're crazy, Sarah. I think you're gullible and very ignorant. And you clearly don't have minority friends. That's what I think, because you are expressing the fact that you clearly don't understand why certain things are an issue or a problem, but you neglected to ask the people that it affected, because we easily could have told you what the issue was. You need to do better, have better due diligence in researching everything. You never should have demonized men. And now you're demonizing basically minorities and women in the way that they function and the way they teach kids without fully understanding why and the circumstances around it. You're not prepared to have these conversations. And I totally understand why I was alerted to this video. I'm trying to handle it in the best way I possibly can, but I'm only halfway through. This is a 44-minute video, which means my video is likely going to be very long because of Sarah, because her video is so long, but I'm only halfway through this, and I'm already like, it's hard for me to stomach the level of just blatant ignorance. Like, she doesn't even care to learn. She's gullible. Sarah, you're just gullible, babe. You cannot just be told something and then suddenly have like an epiphany and be like, oh my God, you're right. I'm going to change my ideology without doing the thorough research.
Really able to express yourself, and you have that freedom of speech, and you have to tell people that you think that this may not be the way forward. You are able to use this big platform, even if you reach one other person or 2 other people that never knew you existed before.
This is why I have a problem, honestly, with her speaking and spouting off ignorance. It's because you have a platform. If you were just some whatever woman just talking to your friends or something, it wouldn't matter. But if you're going to hop on a platform and proclaim to have these discussions, you need to have the knowledge to back it up. You cannot be spreading ignorance in a world that already has an abundance of it. You're just adding to the problem, and you're becoming a mess that needs to be cleaned up. And you know I'll clean it up. But Sarah seems to be better than Charlie, so I'm hoping like she can correct these missteps. I don't want to have to go through another Charlie Gold-esque series of having to get with this girl. But what I'm not going to allow people to do is get up here and just be confidently ignorant and make the world a lot worse than it is. I understand, standing by your beliefs or having different expressions of what you believe in, religion, social politics. I get that. But if you don't have the knowledge or basis to have these discussions, you are a hindrance to everybody's learning capacity. We share an audience. We share the same YouTube people. I'm sure people that watched your video are watching this video. And I'm happy I'm at least here to be able to correct the many instances in which you are clearly wrong. Sarah, you're becoming a mess. You're becoming a mess. And I'm just like, am I prepared to put on my maid outfit again? This is giving me circa 2019 when I was getting with Charlie Gold. Sarah, are you really about to make me go through this? You gonna hop down the political realm? That's my shit. I love political discussions. You're not, okay. All right, look, if this is what she wants to do, I'm here for it, I guess, because I'm not gonna let you go unchecked.
And to tell them it's okay to have different opinions. It's okay to debate. It's okay to share those opinions. And it's
okay, factual opinions, logical opinions, not opinions you pulled out of your butthole, because everybody's got one. Yours just happens to be a little bit dirtier and stinkier than the rest of us.
Why am I now seeing people who are so pro-choice that I actually would rather step away from them? I have seen this video of this woman who says that if she ever has an abortion, she's gonna have a party of aborted fetuses and aborted fetus themed party, and they're gonna have joy in that. They're gonna be so happy about it.
Straight up though, if I ever have to have an abortion, you bet I'm gonna have a fucking party. I'm gonna have cupcakes with aborted fetuses drawn on them, lots of snacks. I'm gonna come up with some sort of cocktail and call it the aborted fetus, and me and all of my friends are just gonna hang out, eat a bunch of yummy dead fetus.
I may be pro-choice, but that is borderline psychotic. There is being pro-choice and understanding the gravity of the situation you're talking about. So I don't want to be associated with people like that. I don't want to have people say, well, this person's pro-choice and you're pro-choice, so you're the same, you're in the same group. No, I will always be pro-choice, but I can recognize unhinged behavior when I see it.
Oh my God, are you serious, Sarah? Please don't tell me this is how you're choosing your political party. Are you choosing your political party based on the standards of a mean girl? Based on who is the in crowd and who's the out crowd, who's the popular group, who you want to be associated with? Are you kidding? You realize there's extremes on both ends of the spectrum, right? Yes, her ideology is classless. Like, why would you go, if you're going to make a birthday cake or whatever full of aborted fetuses, I mean, it's classless, but she's not hurting anybody. Would I go? No. That's not the world that I live in, but I don't choose my party based on who's in the party. I choose it based on my beliefs. And there are extremes on both sides. And honestly, making a stupid cake isn't that extreme. But the extreme side of the right is KKK and Nazis, little Hitler. If you're choosing your party based on association, I choose the birthday cake blue-haired fetus weirdos over the Nazis. Sarah, if this is just the foundation of how you're choosing your beliefs or you're choosing your side, now I'm side-eyeing you, because these two extremes are very different.
We are also becoming so incredibly sensitive. And this is what I think, again, was one of the big reasons. They've been amounting to this point where classic books are being re-edited. And that's scary to me.
Okay, so this is supposed to be titled Why I Left the Left. So I'm assuming that Sarah is assuming herself as someone who is politically right, even though she did say she's center. So I'm not understanding exactly where she's placing herself. Sarah, baby, maybe you want to take the political compass test and do something around that realm. I have a link to it in my video. It really just helps you narrow this down because you're kind of all over the place politically. But she's talking about people reworking classical works of art, classical fictions. We're talking like To Kill a Mockingbird, editing out the N-word, which is something that I think is integral to that book and something I don't agree with. However, conservatives are also trying to edit history, like literal high school history books, and erase classes because you guys don't want to, or at least conservatives don't want to learn the discrimination practices and history that my people and family have had to live. You don't want to learn it, but we had to live it. How is that even fair, right? So I do find this argument a little bit hypocritical of people saying, oh, you're very sensitive, which I agree upon. The world is too sensitive nowadays, and I have told even the pageant community, I'm going to criticize a girl. It doesn't mean I hate her, but if you can't take it, I don't care. Stop being sensitive. I'm totally for people to not be sensitive, even though the conservative, aka, Republican, or I think it's the Tory party in the UK, the conservative parties are so sensitive as to be reworking history because they just can't take the truth. You guys don't want to learn the things that people have had to live through. Are we also going to erase the Holocaust at that point because we have to be careful about the sensitivities of the German public and people? Like, Get it together. You can't have it both ways. Either you're sensitive or not. Either you want the historical books accurately preserved or you don't.
The concept of editing books that were written a while ago to fit the agenda and the political climate of today is terrifying to me.
The process of editing history books in order to fit the political climate and agenda is terrifying.
And I can't imagine why we're erasing that part of history to make it what it is now. That's dark.
You're right, Sarah. We should not be erasing history. We should not be erasing history, no matter how uncomfortable it may make us. Conservatives.
And now we're saying all cis-het white men are this. All cis-het white women are this. If you don't explicitly tell me who you're sleeping with on a regular basis, like, you need to tell me that so I know what you are. We're not looking at character anymore. We're not looking at who people are as personality-wise.
Sarah. The people that care about who you're sleeping with on a regular basis is not the liberals in any part of the globe. It's not the liberals asking who you're sleeping with, Sarah. As much as we want to shun labels, you guys love to label anybody who isn't straight or isn't, of the classical lily whites. I'm just like, you may not call me black. You may call me POC. You may call me a minority. You may call me an other, typically they just say the black girl, but either way, the conservatives don't mind labels as long as they control the label maker. That's what that is.
We are basing entire personalities around who we are sleeping with. We went from don't label me to now being like, you have to be labeled. What minority do you belong to? What do you identify as? Do we just not look at people's personalities anymore? Do we just not have conversations about our achievements, our hobbies, our houses, our partners, our jobs, our pets, our political views, our moral beliefs, our religion?
I love how she brought up partners. Like, she's like, do we not just talk about or take pride in our partners and talk about stuff like that? Sarah, that requires voluntarily stamping yourself with the label because certain people's partners are of the same sex. You see how you kind of tripped into the issue of saying, why are we labeling everybody? Why can't we just talk about our pets and houses and jobs and partners? And having a partner of the same sex is going to come along with that label. You see how this is a circular issue? Sarah, come on. She's like, do we not talk about religions anymore? Talking about religion also gives you a label. You can be Jewish, you can be Muslim, you can be Catholic, you can be Christian, you can be Hindu. That's still a label. Yes, we can talk about these things, but you're trying to avoid the whole labeling thing. But certain topics mandate certain labels. Like, certain people are Hindu Muslim from, the UK. Some people are Catholic from Mexico. Those labels kind of are a part of who we are. Now, I don't want to go overboard with labels because they certainly have, I know, I'm well aware, but you can't just be like, we're free of labels when that's just not how the world operates. Like, from the dawn of time, labels were a thing. There's different languages, nationalities, different continents, different groups of people, different tribes, different hairstyles meant different things. Education, Sarah, education.
But just have conversations about that where we can walk away from that. Not saying I made an ally or I made an enemy, but just saying that was a nice conversation. Or that wasn't a great conversation. I don't agree with that person. And then go on about our lives. I don't get it. I don't get the constant
Of course you don't get it, Sarah. That's called privilege. Hold on. Here's a nice exposition about privilege. It's the privilege to walk away and not be affected by people's differing opinions. That is what minorities have always pointed out because we don't have the privilege to do so ourselves. You can have a conversation with a racist person who absolutely has black people and walk away and be like, well, I don't really like that person. It doesn't affect me at all. So whatever, wasn't the best conversation. It doesn't bother you and you can let it go. But that conversation, that person, and those beliefs actually cause physical harm, real life danger for my people. We cannot have the privilege to just walk away and let it go. You can have a disagreement with someone who's completely homophobic, like absolutely hates trans people, gay people, someone who's totally transphobic. Like, you can do that and be like, wow, I didn't really agree with that person. Bad conversation. And then just let it go. That's some really nice privilege. But the LGBTQ community does not have the privilege to simply just walk away from those people and live their lives when those people impact their everyday lives, the jobs that they give, the way that they live, their safety. They cannot just walk away. You're sitting up here espousing your clear privilege and being like, why can't we just walk away? Because we're not like you. You have the protections that your privilege provides. I wish I could just walk away. I wish I didn't have to be impacted by any of the racist people around the world. When I'm on a motorcycle bike ride, I have to be careful which bars that my group stops at because I know we're harboring minorities. And I know the minorities look at each other and be like, hey, is this cool to be here? And to be honest, there's certain places in Sonoma County that I won't take the group because I know it's a problem. I know it's a problem. And even though we're bikers and no one's going to step to nobody, I'm not trying to unnecessarily start a bar fight that we will inevitably win because I run deep. My group runs big. But either way, I shouldn't have to look over my shoulder. I shouldn't have to double check where I'm going, what town that I'm in to be sure that my friends are safe. But that's just the life that I have to live. I don't have the privilege to ignore it all. Some of you down in the comments have the privilege to ignore it all. Nothing affects you, so it doesn't bother you. The minorities in the United States and even people overseas do not have that privilege. They don't. People of different religions, Muslims, don't have the privilege to just walk away from someone who calls them terrorists because those people can severely get them in trouble. They can impact their communities, their lives where they live. These people that are Muslims sometimes have to move and change houses because of the amount of harassment that they face. They can't just walk away. But it must be nice to have the privilege to do so yourself. I'm not mad at Sarah for her privilege, but acknowledge that you have it. Okay, so I think she's done. I'm totally fine with Sarah, doing content that she's interested in, but sweetheart, if you're gonna have a platform and you don't wanna be dragged, research before you speak, because there's a lot of nonsense in this video of things you clearly don't understand and you do not have the accurate perspective in order to be espousing judgment on. I think it was unnecessarily long. She gave us an entire backstory and we really didn't get to her exact political leanings. I think there was a segment of the video where she said she's more of a centrist, even though the video is like why I left the left. It seems like why she left the left is simply because she didn't like the blue-haired weirdos on the radical left, which it's like, but you're unconcerned about the people on the radical right, little Hitler. I'm just like, let's be fair about this. I expect in the future that she's going to face a lot of backlash simply because she's maybe unaware of her own ignorance, and it's a very treacherous thing to be doing, especially when you have a large platform, to be blowhorn ignorance all over the internet, because I personally would check her, and obviously this video is getting uploaded. So when she uploads again, if she's especially talking about like minority issues, I'm going to weigh in because she just doesn't have the background or the necessary knowledge to be talking about it at this point. This is kind of basic level stuff that she brought up, and she seemed to dive deeper into confusion. Well, this is one hell of a jump back into the haterverse. It's nice to be doing a video that has nothing to do with Chantal or Amberlynn Reed. Charlie, take notes. Yes, Young Dumb Honey Bun in this video, she's all over the place, but I mean, at least she's trying some personal development. I can give props to a woman that's at least trying and failing versus a woman who's not trying at all. But in the comment section, you guys let me know what you think about this very long video. Not my fault, but I did want to be thorough and, hear out Sarah. What are your perspectives on just her different policies and ideas? How do you feel about how she's deciding to choose which side she's on? Because it seems like she's basing it based off of what type of people she likes more, who fits her fashion sense, who she likes more. Also, what do you think about her ideas of discrimination against women and how that's kind of fictional and doesn't exist, and her past of being a man-hater, which I'm like, you shouldn't have been, sis. Her lack of knowledge on certain subjects. Do you have any ideas on how Sarah can attain the adequate knowledge in order to be jumping into this part of YouTube safely without being ridiculed? Because I don't think that this was a great start for her, but we'll see what happens with her in the future. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. If you have any further suggestions on other videos or want to notify me at all of future videos of Sarah or anybody in the Hater Nation of things that have been going on, I did see some receipts that were dropped by Charlie Gold about Callie, and Callie was going off. There were voice notes, like things have been happening. Catch me up and let me know. I'm watching and I'm listening, as I always have been. You guys can throw me the tea. Also, any suggested videos on anything else happening in a YouTube world. You guys know I've been on the Red Pillars, the men, the Passport Bros. They've been going crazy. Let me know if I need to lose my mind over something. I'm here to try to have a civil conversation, unless it's just like otherworldly, then someone can get dragged. I'm for that too. Let me know in the comment section below. Hit me in the DMs. Find me on Instagram. Hit me in the Discord. Find the podcast. I've got hours-long discussions of many different topics. So do your due diligence and come find me anywhere you so choose to do so. And remember, I love you and I will miss you, but you know I will be back in a future video. Bye!